The Wraith, whose real name is Philip Ojimo in Dead by Daylight, is one of the featured love interests whom the player can romance in Hooked on You, a Dead by Daylight dating sim. In the base game, the Wraith is known as a stealthy killer capable of cloaking and covertly taking out survivors when they least expect it. However, Philip is not shy to show his true feelings and open himself to being affectionately vulnerable in this Dead by Daylight dating sim spin-off. Accordingly, the player can form a romantic bond with the Wraith by selecting the proper responses and reactions during this killer's story arc. According to YouTube creator D-Strike, the protagonist should start by choosing that they want to go to the swimming pool to encounter Wraith for an initial interaction event. For the first dialogue, the player must select goggles and snorkel, as the Wraith enjoys swimming as a pastime. However, when prompted to take off his shirt for him, the protagonist should choose to keep their hands off. After playing an inconsequential mini-game with the Wraith, the Trapper will approach and attempt to throw Dwight into the pool. This decision does not matter, the story will continue with the Dead by Daylight killers cooking and dining together. The group will ask the protagonist why they have yet to take a bit, and they should answer with "I am sorry." Once this event is over, the player will wake up on the beach with Wraith in what is the first bonding event with the killer. Romancing the Wraith in Hooked on You Scenario No. Event or dialogue Best response Scenario 1 The Wraith wonder if the player is as shy and nervous as he is. No. Scenario 2 The Wraith offers to let the player hold his bell. Hold the bell delicately. Scenario 3 After nightfall, the killers and the protagonist gather at a campfire to share stories. Choose the Wraith. Scenario 4 Once the Wraith finishes his tale, the player decides to break the awkward silence. Ask about the story. Scenario 5 Shortly after, the protagonist will encounter the Wraith by the poolside. The killer from Dead by Daylight will ask if the young man in his story is weird. I would forgive him, followed by yes. Scenario 6 The protagonist must summon a killer by their side before dozing off to sleep. Choose the Wraith. Scenario 7 The next day, the protagonist must choose between two killers for a date. Choose the Wraith. Scenario 8 After arriving at a new location, the player must choose how to respond to the awkward silence between them and the Wraith. Break the silence. Scenario 9 The Wraith asks why the protagonist came to the island. I have no idea. Scenario 10 The player and the Wraith discover a mysterious ritual table with potions. Mix those potions. Scenario 11 The Wraith wants to know more about the player's family. I remember my grandmother. Scenario 12 A sensual aura is in the air, and the protagonist asks a question to change the atmosphere. What's this table for? Followed by choosing to smile. Scenario 13 After a short minigame, the Wraith from Dead by Daylight and the protagonist will play a game of Truth or Dare. Provide the following responses: Dare, great question, cactus, show me something. Scenario 14 After returning to the beach, the spirit will approach the player in an attempt to woo them away from the Wraith. You're a hypocrite. Scenario 15 The group will ask the player how was their time with Wraith. Say you had a great time. Scenario 16 For the second round of campfire storytelling, the player is asked if they could share a tale. Fine, I'll tell a story. Scenario 17 While the choices of the protagonist's story don't matter, the killer whom they choose to start another narrative does. Choose the Wraith. Scenario 18. The Wraith seems quite agitated after being asked to provide a campfire story. Give Wraith a massage. Scenario 19. The player must suggest an activity to cheer up the Wraith. Suggest throwing a frisbee. Scenario 20. The Wraith displays fear of the word crush. Hug him. Scenario 21. Claudette and Dwight will grant the player the ability to eliminate one killer. Choose anyone but Wraith. Scenario 22. The player will receive a bouquet at the start of the following day, and they must choose who to give it to. Choose the Wraith. Scenario 23. The Wraith is afraid that he will disappoint the protagonist. You could never disappoint me. Scenario 24. The Wraith is looking for his bell, and the protagonist will help him find it. The player will be given a choice of 3 locations. The order in which they visit each area does not affect the Wraith's story arc. However, there are certain choices that must be made at each. Pick one of 3 locations. Scenario 25. If the player chose the Trapper's Cave, they should look around the cave. Scenario 26. If the player goes to the Huntress Cabin of Dead by Daylight, they should say you're pranking Wraith. Scenario 27. However, the choice made at the Black Lighthouse will not affect Wraith's story arc. Yes or no or both fine. Scenario 28. Eventually, the player will travel to the top of the Black Lighthouse to confront the spirit, the culprit in possession of Wraith's bell. Play the minigame to get back the bell. Scenario 29. Shortly after, the player will meet Philip's grandmother, Grandma Abby. She will provide several questions to the protagonist that they must answer. Provide the following responses: a statue of a horse, cactus, cornhole, minigame choice. Scenario 30. After a heart-rending ritual, the player must make the decisive choice of romancing the Wraith. Accept Wraith's love. If the protagonist follows the scenario responses provided above, they should be able to successfully woo the Wraith in Hooked on You. On the other hand, those looking to betray the Wraith can instead reject Wraith's love and then tell him the others were right about him. This action will trigger the bad ending with this Dead by Daylight killer. Source: D-Strike. Release date: Dead by Daylight franchise, Dead by Daylight platform, PlayStation 4, PC, PlayStation 5, Nintendo Switch, Xbox Series 10, Xbox One, Stadia. Released the 14th of June 2016. Developer: Behavior Interactive. Publisher: Behavior Interactive. Genre: multiplayer, action, survival horror, horror ESRB, M.
My heart returns to you. Dinner, you were great. We can go back to mine if you want to. You look so good. I want to do that. I must be tripping. God, catch my